Right. Welcome, everybody. Wisdom's Chats USA, Wednesday, the 14th of April, 2021, believe it or not. Well into the end of the first quarter. No, we're past the end of the first quarter, into the start of the second quarter.
Can you believe it's gone that fast?
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
Really, no.
Time is just disappearing on us, but it's time for the BJ show. So it's BJ's story today.
Well, I'm on it.
We're gonna sit back and relax. And BJ, I'm just gonna simply hand it over to you to take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Ivan. Before we begin, I will tell you that my grandmother used to say, "Don't wish to get old, because the older you get, the faster time goes." And she's 100% right.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, she is.
There is a story that if we weren't recording, I'd tell you, my take on it. But we're recording, so I'll leave it another time.
Last week, everyone David actually wanted to know my backstory. And I do know that Ivan and Lee are familiar with it, and Trevor as well. And I hope Trevor shows up later. But in the beginning, when I first began public speaking, this was a presentation that I used to make quite often for a lot of numerous reasons. And that will become clear as I get into this. However, when I began public speaking, it was somewhat of an embarrassing topic, humiliating a little bit, humbling in the beginning, because of what I'm about to share. However, over the course of the journey that I took, I realized that I'm not what people classify as a survivor. I now proudly wear the badge of warrior, because of everything from that one pivotal moment up until now. It reinforces everything I am about. It's about a great positive mindset. It's about fortitude. It's about grit. It's about determination. It's about, as most of you know, my tagline is helping people find their magic. Well, I had to find my own magic before I could share it. And it was through that whole journey of self-awareness and of developing self-esteem and self-assurance and conviction, that I am very proud to now present this particular topic anywhere and everywhere that I'm asked to speak it. My childhood was very nomadic. My father had a position where we traveled many, many times. I know at least 2-3 times in my early childhood, before I was 10 years old. We moved so often that I could literally be in a brand new school on Monday and the following Monday be in another new school. We moved so often. And if I remember correctly, it was something before I was 10 years old. We moved about 6 times. It was scary as a child, but it also created, as a child, in those formative early years, the ability not to make friends. I became introverted and shy and bashful, and I lost a lot of social skills. And I took up all kinds of other things to keep myself entertained, reading, writing, drawing, music, and it was everything I could do to keep myself dancing, in the room with the music on, doing everything I could to keep myself entertained. When I was around 10 years old, my mother put her foot down and said, "We have to stop. We have to put some normalcy into these children's lives." So we landed in a place in Northeast Missouri that was to remain my home for probably about 10 years. At 10 years old, I still was shy, even entering a school where now I kind of felt comfortable about making friends. I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know how to set play dates. I was kind of uncomfortable around playing with neighbors and schoolmates and buddies. And it took me quite a while, a few couple of 3 years to be able to get comfortable in that environment. And that actually did shape a lot of what happened in the next few years. When I was 16, my father just up and abandoned the family. And with no notice, with no pre-set conditions that led up to that event, he just left. My mother, had been married about 18 years at the time, and my mother was just catapulted into a whole world of craziness. And she had never worked outside the home. So now not only is she forced to, and the whole family unit structure and the whole environment of that just went completely downhill because she now had to get not just one job but two to sustain an income that was now missing. And my brother and I, being 16 and 13, were forced to start working harder than we had been, and and the whole, it's hard to describe, but the whole unit became just disjointed. My mother um, started drinking and had a series of jobs. And at 17, my mother took a job as a motel. And when I say motel, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but here in the States, you have the big hotels, and then the motels are the ones that are along the highway that you can pull in for an overnight stay. It was a 20 unit motel, and she actually relished that job and she got enmeshed in it. It was at that time that my father sent her a Dear Woman letter, not a Dear John letter, but a Dear Susie letter. And I think she thought at the time he was just going through a midlife crisis, and he would eventually work his way back home to the family. It didn't happen. And when she realized that wasn't happening, she boarded herself up in one of the rooms and ordered delivery from the liquor store, a massive amount of liquor, and for 4 days barricaded herself in. She wasn't talking, she wasn't answering the phone, she wasn't answering knocks, she didn't want anything, and she literally put herself in a stupor. And finally, one of the gentlemen who was residing in the hotel for, he was a construction worker, so he was there for weeks. Lovely man, and to this day, I owe him a lot. But he was coming in and helping my brother and I, who were trying to manage the business while mom was gone. We were taking on all that responsibility as well. And he finally came in. He was helping us out. He was helping us do some grocery shopping and taking care of the property. And he literally was right there for us. He finally called the police and he said, I need you to break in to this place. She was smart enough that she had taken all the extra pass keys with her so nobody could enter. We got in and it was a mess. I will not bore you or detail you with the gore, but we finally took her out, and that was kind of an awakening for my brother and myself, put me into a higher position of responsibility. But I was also angry, and I wasn't angry at my mother, I was angry at my father, and that anger lasted a long time. And then when she finally got herself back into position, she lost her job, And she took on another job during the day, and then she took on a part-time job in the evening with a friend, an acquaintance, who owned another motel there in town. But mom became the evening desk clerk so that the owner could have some free time of her own. That started my nightmare, because, and I still don't know, and I say this with some humor. I've never been a mother, so I can't speak to the intent here. But the two of them got together. My mother's friend had two young boys. One was close to my brother's age. The other one was about 6 years older than myself at the time. He was in Vietnam. He was home on break. And the two of those women decided, oh, let's just set up a blind date. It didn't go well. The beginning of it was lovely. He was friendly. We went to dinner, and then we went to a movie. And then after the movie, we went just driving around and chatting. And then all of a sudden, he made a wrong turn purposely. And as a result, I was sexually assaulted. And I don't just mean raped, I do mean brutally, viciously, savagely. I ended up breaking both wrists, breaking 5 toes, splintering one of my shins, and having several bruises elsewhere, but from my back down below my buttocks. I was as black as this background on the screen for 6 months, deep, severe. And because this happened in a time, this was in the late 60s, and because of this, sexual assaults were not treated near what they are now. So, and because of who was the assaulter, and because of our family dynamics, I never told a soul. I never spoke of what happened. It was, I just wanted to shut the whole world off and withdraw, which was something I was very familiar with, and hiding. So that's exactly what I did. I don't know how I managed to get through that. I honestly don't know. But that happened to me at 17. At 20, I had been in college and came home and had secured a job in a police department. I was the first female ever in the history of our city to be hired. And I was, at that time, I was hired as what they called a cadet. So I was in training. And part of my training was to experience like an internship, a practicum. It was to experience so many hours dispatching and in report taking, in detective work, and in burglaries, and in traffic accidents, and traffic control. And so I had a whole enmeshed environment. And I will tell you again, because of my background, my town was small, so I got a lot of notoriety, and I kind of liked the attention. I'm not gonna lie, it was wonderful feeling like, I'm the first woman, and people are recognizing me, and they appreciate what I'm doing, and I get a lot of attaboys, and girls are coming up and saying, yeah, I'm so proud of you. I think that's what I want to do. And it was very egocentric, and it was very good for me. Over the course of the next 2 years, I made a lot of friends, not close friends, but made a lot of friends within that department. And everybody else was married. I was the only single person there. Everyone else was married. So one of the captains on another shift started paying attention, and and every so often a group of these guys, along with the sheriff's department and the fire and the ambulance services and all of law enforcement, got together once a month and had what we call a big game feed: fish, quail, duck, goose, hog roast, all kinds of stuff. So when this captain said, "Why don't you come along? I'll come and pick you up and let's go." So for the next 6 months, that kind of became our routine. Hey, Willie's going to have a barbecue this weekend. Come on, I'll pick you up. Or Joe and Sarah want us to go out to dinner, or Mike and Beth want us to go on a picnic. So in essence, I didn't think of it that way, but we kind of became a couple. At the end of the 6 months, he asked me to marry him. I don't know why I did. I'll be honest. I didn't love him. We enjoyed doing the things together and we got along okay, but it was not immediate romance. So I said yes. And in 3 months of getting married, I am now in the most devastating, psychologically abusive relationship. And again, I won't go into major detail, but at the end of our second year of being married, I almost killed him, and that scared the Pewaddin out of me. I'm telling you, it just was terrifying that I was capable of that much anger and rage, and because it was just fractionally with less than a bat of an eye, what I did occurred. It was just a thought at the moment. So I now do understand when that defense of momentarily insanity, or temporarily insane. I get it, because I actually do know what that's like. He moved out and it became a big thing, and that whole divorce was just insane in and of itself. And again, there's a whole much more to that story. But at the end of that divorce, I ended up having to move, not by choice, but because he put me in a place where we were evicted from the home that we had. And I ended up going to a place, and he ended up finding me, and that whole process was just a nightmare. And I ended up moving out of town and came here to Iowa. And for the next 10 years, let me back up. In my divorce, I discovered that he had fraudulently forged my name to over $50,000 worth of debt. And because I hired a handwriting expert and did a whole bunch of things, and we just couldn't prove that I didn't sign those documents. So according to the court, the rules, that I had to pay 50% of that debt, even though none of it was mine. So for the next 10 years after I had come to Iowa, I worked 3 and 4 jobs. I had no life. I had no friends. I literally got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, went to bed at midnight, working and working and working and working. And it took 10 years. When I finished, and finally the day when the sun came out and all that debt was done, and I thought, he's gone out of my life, I don't have to mess with anything, I can now move forward. 6 months later, I am diagnosed with what they called an extremely rare form of endometrial, cervical, uterine, and ovarian cancer. And on the day of surgery, the doctor comes to me just as we're getting ready to be loaded to go into the surgery, she tells me that I only have a 25% chance of coming off that table, that 75% chance I was going to die that day. And I will tell you, I know where her heart was, and I know, and I'm very glad that she told me. But when you go into an operation that is scary in and of itself, but then you're told at the very last moment that you could die, it plays crazy things with your head. So obviously I came out, and she told me that even though I managed to come through this, I'm 36 years old at the time. And she says, I got to tell you more, that the odds of you having this reoccur and you making it to 40 years old are slim. You probably will not survive 40. So after I came home, with all that I had gone through, all the stuff that I had put up with and endured and struggled through, I'm sitting at home one evening, and I cannot begin to tell you, sobbing uncontrollably doesn't even begin to describe what I was doing. I felt so low. I often say that I felt lower than an earthworm. Many times people say I was so low, bottom looked like up. I was so low, if I looked up, I saw nothing but bottom. And I just, I felt, I'm 36 years old. Why was I put on earth? I've done nothing. My life has been nothing but pain and trouble and anguish. And I'm not worthy. Why am I even here? And I had my pain pills, and I had a glass of wine, and I just was fractionally, and I do mean fractionally, moments away from doing away with my life. And I cannot explain what happened at that moment, but there was a whisper of a voice back here, and I do promise you it was not God, but it was a whisper of a voice, and it said, what the hell are you doing? What are you thinking? Stand up, fight, start doing something purpose in your life. I had been in network marketing for a few years at that moment, and one of my two mentors, and actually I had met them, so they were kind of friends. They weren't close friends or anything, acquaintances, was Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn. And I had Zig Ziglar's Automobile University tapes and all kinds of stuff. And I, for some reason, just picked up my cassette recorder and plugged in all those little cassette tapes, and I started playing them. And then I found Jim Rohn's book, and I picked that up. As the tapes are playing, I'm reading Jim Rohn. And it just became important to me that I do something. What? I didn't know. So the next morning, I started calling around. This was way before computers and cell phones and all of that stuff. So I started going through the phone book, and I went through newspapers, and I was trying to find as many support groups as I could find. Again, there's another big long journey here at this moment, but that journey into finding support groups, and I didn't just find support groups for cancer victims or women with cancer. I branched out because now I wanted to know, if I felt that much pain and I was in that much hurt, people who had just as much devastating lives, they had to have been feeling something like I was feeling. So I wanted to know more. My curiosity started, and I joined groups that were like parents with mental retarded children, or burn victims, or amputees, support groups with people with amputees, speech impediments. Oh my God, I could just go on. And there was one group that actually opened everything for me. And it was a woman who was not only a burn victim, but she was born with a profound birth defect. And her name was Rebecca. And this woman stood up in front of this group, gave her story, and she said, I want everyone to know I may not be the most beautiful person to look at, and I know I repel a lot of people. However, my inside has never changed. My heart is still there. I love doing certain things. I still have the same ambitions, the drives, the intuitions that God gave me. I still have the longing and the desires to be loved and to have a family and to become somebody in this world. I still am that person. It just is hard to see. And that literally was not just the red light. I mean, it literally was an epiphanic moment for me, because by this time, I'm bald. And I am now dealing with that repellness that people are giving me, because doing business in the network, in the direct sales, I have to deal with customers. So all the appointments that I had prior to this, they canceled. If I was trying to schedule a home booking or to do a show somewhere, nobody wanted me. And all my friends locally shied away from me. You know, I had a somewhat, I won't say major, but you know, some of my coworkers would say, hey, BJ, let's go to a movie Friday night, or, you know, after work Friday, let's go out for dinner and a pizza and a movie. And, you know, let's do things together. My social calendar became zero. I mean, zero. All my friends they were still there, but they never called to see how I was doing. They never checked to see if I needed anything. Sorry. Gosh darn it. We'll do it that way. Sorry. Anyway, I just became ostracized by everything and everybody. And it hurt. And so I decided, and there was a couple of few things that happened along the way too, but that is when I decided that if I needed to earn an income, and I still needed to feel of importance and value, and I needed to feel like I had something to give. So I started buying wigs, and I resented it like hell. I thought, this is not how God made me. I'm being fake and phony, until everybody started saying, BJ, you look wonderful. BJ, what, this is great. I love this new look. And it dawned on me that in order for me to start living and to start becoming a vital part of society, I now had to conform to their comfortability. So in order for me to do business and for me to exist, I had to make other people comfortable. And so once I just accepted that mindset and change, everything started turning around. And it was, again, from that moment on, and all the journeys and all the connections and the drive and the work that I had to put in, and yes, it was work, that I started seeing more confidence in myself, and people started seeing that I was being confident. speaking with more confidence. Again, the person you see here is not that girl from 30 years ago that was always quiet and reserved and shy and bashful. Now I sometimes have been described as being very brusque and outspoken, and I kind of do own that because I know what it took to overcome that person. And because of all of that, it is why I now say it's so important that you find not only your own personal magic, because everybody, I am 1,000,000% convinced God gives us certain talents, skills, and abilities when we're born, but He doesn't give us a playbook. He doesn't tell us how we have to discover those. That's our journey. That's our job as a human being, is to go out and find what that magic is, what are certain specific things that we are good at. But it's also the moment where you recognize the little goosebump moments, those goosebump moments in life that just fleetingly, fractionally seconds pass by our lives and we don't take stock of it. We don't notice. Something so simple as being in a grocery store parking lot and seeing an elderly woman struggling putting several bags in her cart, and a little 8-year-old or 10-year-old or 20-year-old coming along saying, "Ma'am, can I help you?" Those are precious moments. Or it's that moment when a mom's standing at the kitchen sink doing dishes and a young child just runs in and grabs her around the hips and say, "Mom, I love you." Those are fractional, precious moments. And we just say, "Hey, honey, come back with me. Let's get together later on after I get the dishes done." We dismiss those fractional moments. We have to stop and take notice of those. That's the journey. And that's why I'm so passionate about the inspirational things that I've been doing, the motivational things I've been doing. It's why I love networking, because it is helping people understand that they have a purpose. They have a reason for being here on this earth. And sometimes we just don't give people enough credit. And again, it's that self-talk that they listen to. It's that you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. What the hell are you thinking? Why do you do that? You don't have any education, you don't have any skills, you don't have any knowledge. Baloney. Absolute baloney. You absolutely need to get up there and do what you need to do to find your purpose in life, to find that magic. It's so important. It's so important. And if I had not been through everything that I've been through, I don't know where I would have been. And I certainly wouldn't have discovered my magic and my particular skill and talent. It took nearly 25, 30 years for that to be developed, and for me to feel comfortable in doing that. So sometimes I get very distressed. I get very aggravated when people say, well, I've been trying this for 6 months. It's not working. Don't give up. If that is truly where your passion is, and it is what you absolutely want to do, don't give up. There's an old saying here in the States, there's 1,001 ways to skin a cat. That always never made sense to me in the physical sense, but in the motivational and inspirational, yes, it makes all the sense in the world, because every journey has 1,000 roads or more. And what you need to do is find that one road. And it may take 1,000 different directions, but that one road is definitely there. Time is there for you to use. It's precious. Use it. Don't waste it. So that's my story, guys.
Wow, BJ, what a privilege to hear your story again. Thank you so much. Extremely powerful. A goosebump moment from start to finish, without a shadow of a doubt. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, the fact that we'd heard parts of it before certainly didn't diminish hearing it again in any formal manner. So very, 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 very powerful story that you have there. I think you need to write a book.
Do you know what? People have told me that 100 times. Here's
There's a
one.
book there, for sure.
Yeah, well, here's one reason why I kind of shy away from it. As yeah, I don't even know how to begin there or describe that. Even though some people find that inspirational, motivational, it's not. That story is no different than hundreds of thousands of women, not just here in the States, but worldwide. There are women who have gone through more devastating abuse than I went through. There are women who've been victimized. There are women who have been murdered. There are women who are suffering terrible long-term effects because of domestic violence, whether it's physical violence or psychological violence. And I will tell you, there were many times when I truly thought that I wished that he had been physical in his abuse, because at least with the physical remnants, I could hide them. When you deal with psychological abuse, I don't care how much therapy you went through, and I had one of the most amazing therapists for 10 years that stuck by me, and I, oh my God, I owe him everything. But even now, there are moments I will have nightmares. I guess you could call it PTSD, a form of it. But now, almost 30 years later, there are nights where I will have nightmares and I wake up in cold sweats. They don't happen near as much as they used to, but they still happen. So that psychological effect is always going to be there and will always remain with me. And what I do is just get up and I just have to shake it off and try, and sometimes I don't get back to sleep, but that's okay because I do work through it with the day. And again, with time, you get better at managing it. You get better at dealing with the emotion, and you get better dealing with the issues. And now it takes less than 5 minutes for me to pull myself together and get it done. So I can tell you sometimes that physical abuse, although that is just horrendous and should never, ever be done, there are, if given the choice of the two, that's probably, unless it becomes, what's the word I want?
Little.
Yeah, deformative and truly horrific. No abuse should ever happen, and we need a bigger conversation about that. And we need more people coming forward. And it's kind of like I sometimes liken that to what AA has done over the course of decades. To bring it forward, you don't need a 4-step or 12-step program in any of that. But we need women to find their voices. We need women to start speaking out and sharing and highlighting some of the things, the precursors that are happening along the way. They say, get the hell out of there, run, go find help, call the police, do something, tell somebody. But women are ashamed and they won't do that. And I will tell you something that's kind of even more scarier. Because in the last 10 years, 5 or 10 years, it is now, as you might assume, the majority of domestic violence cases are women victims. The numbers are rising towards men now. Women are now becoming the domestic abusers. And that
Really?
yes, and that kind of scares us a little bit. Statistics are slowly starting to rise. Now, it's not a major spike, but compared to about 20 years ago, you're seeing higher numbers now of men being the victims. We have to stop it. We have to stop it. And we just need more conversation. We need more dialogue. So My platform.
Thanks, Vijay. Yes, Kevin, yeah.
I just wondered if, it's becoming more prevalent that men are the subject of physical, psychological abuse, etc. Because as a society, it becomes more acceptable for that sort of thing to be reported. Having been a school governor at a primary school locally to where I am in West Yorkshire, I do know that there are an increasing number of young children with specific special educational needs, and I think that's partly the fact that there's more knowledge of that sort of thing, and that there's much more testing of that sort of thing, so that I can see a parallel sort of between the two. I don't try and equate the two, but I can see a parallel.
Well, I know Salih could probably speak to this, but it is also it's part of that environmental culture of a family unit, because it's embarrassing and kids don't know how to react, and kids don't know how to respond to the anger or to the pain that they're feeling. They can't verbalize it because part of it, depending on the age of the child, but if it's a young child, they don't know how to process what's happening in the family, and so they're trying to deal with it in and of their own volition, and that doesn't always help. So that's why I said we need to dig into this deeper, and we need to do more talking, communicating. We just need to do more of it. I think in the last several years we've done a major inroads into this, but at the same time we barely scratched the surface. We need to work harder at it. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thanks again, Vijay. Yeah, Lee, let's pop across to you quickly for
Yeah, so I think we just wrap up there, but because we've come to the end of our time. But Vijay, all I want to say is thank you. Thank you for really, I know it's a story that you've become more and more comfortable sharing, but it doesn't lose its power and its impact and the courage that it takes to share and to go back to dark places, not because you need to, but because it helps people to see that you can survive. And what was your word? A warrior. You can be that warrior. That is more than just a survivor, but somebody who celebrates life and is beautiful. So thank you for the beauty of who you are and how you've shared yourself with us here on Wisdom's Chats. Very, very grateful. And what I would love to maybe think about as a topic for next week is just maybe our own stories of resilience. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go into any details, but how have you learned resilience in your life? I wonder if that could be a topic for next week.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting challenge.
It's a beautiful word.
It is. It's a powerful word.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right, super. Thanks very much, everyone, so much for being with us. Vijay, thanks again. Yeah, I agree with Lee's sentiments. Amazing story and amazing courage. Has grown an amazing lady. So yeah, thank you for being you. And we
Take care,
hope you have
everybody.
a great rest of the day, and we will see you next week.
Okay.
Thanks. And
Bye-bye.
bye.
Blessings.
Yes, stay safe, everyone.